Under the previous order, the bill is considered read a third time. The question occurs on passage of the bill. Aye. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The bill is passed.
So there you have it. The budget is passed. No government shutdown. We know that AOC was complaining about this. Let's hear her comments on this whole situation. Ah, yes, like I noticed before, AOC is starting to become the front person for the Democratic Party. I should say the socialist version of the Democrat Party. So I got to thinking about this. There seems to be like a tug of war back and forth between Democrats. They don't know who they are no more. They don't have any real leaders there anymore. They're fighting for power. So I was thinking, as much as I don't like Schumer, I don't like Nancy Pelosi, I don't like any of those old Democrats. But I certainly like them much better than I do the new socialist Democrats. A lot more. If they were smart, they needed to separate from those crazy leftists and start going more towards the center. They would have a ton more support. They've been making Trump their enemy for so long. The smart move would be to start teaming up with Trump and showing America that, yes, Republicans and Democrats can get along. They can work together and get things accomplished. Look, you're not going to beat Trump. In these midterms, they're dreaming if they think they're going to pick up any more seats. America is watching their behavior, and they are quite tired of their bullshit. All the nonstop lies, they're driving their voters insane. To where they're stupid enough to post on TikTok and suggest that somebody off Trump.
All right, guys, we're about 6 weeks in. Who's going to do it? Who's going to take one for the team and do it? And I'm not going to say what it is, because I know that you know that I know what we're all thinking. Who's gonna do it? It can't be me. I'm a dance teacher. I got things to do. But somebody's gotta do it. Someone's gotta take one for the team. Because we're 6 weeks in. I can't do 4 more years of this, guys.
I love how she says, all right, who's gonna do it? It's not me. It can't be me. I'm too good for all this crap. My students need me more than you need to be out of jail. This is how stupid they are. When you listen to their reasoning behind it and why they hate Trump, it's all for the wrong reasons. It seriously is. It's a joke to listen to them. So what are they mad about? Doge and all the things that Doge is doing. But I do find it interesting that when Obama wanted to do the same thing, there wasn't riots and burning down of shit and nothing like that.
Everyone knows that getting rid of the deficit will require some tough decisions. And that includes cutting back on billions of dollars in programs that a lot of people care about. But what should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody. Waste we should be getting rid of even if we didn't have a deficit. Sure, some of these cuts aren't that big, but no amount of waste is acceptable. Not when it's your money. Not at a time when so many Americans are already cutting back. Just as families are living within their means, government should too. Did you know the federal government pays for a website devoted to a folk music ensemble made up of forest rangers? They're called the Fiddlin' Forest. I'll put their music on my iPod, but I'm not paying for their website. And there are hundreds of similar sites that we should consolidate or just get rid of. By the way, you're not only paying for websites no one needs, you're paying for thousands of buildings all across the country no one uses. For the last decade, the government's owned a massive and completely empty warehouse in the middle of Brooklyn, for example. Now, the government hadn't been able to sell this building and others like it because of red tape and Washington politics that held things up for years. But we're finally cutting through all that and plan to get rid of these buildings in the months ahead. We need to step up our game. We need to go after every dime. We need to make government work for you. That's why, starting today, I've asked the Vice President to lead a renewed effort to hunt down misspent tax dollars in every agency and department of this government. We're calling it the Campaign to Cut Waste, and I know Joe's the right man to lead it, because nobody messes with Joe.
There's a new standard by which the government is going to function from this point on. The American people are entitled to transparency. Look, A lot of this depends on new, sophisticated methods, but it also, we know, depends on relentless focus on making this a priority. Focus that can't be delegated. We're holding ourselves accountable, and we're deeply committed and focused on making government function better. We're not just eliminating fraud and waste. We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue. We're going to give you the government you expect and deserve.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Yeah, this is something that Obama and Biden did themselves, but not at this scale in which Trump's doing it. As a matter of fact, even Bernie Sanders supported it.
There is no question that there is an enormous amount of waste and fraud and abuse in this government. There is no question to my mind that Congress has not been vigilant enough in rooting out that waste and fraud to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. I would simply say that while it is absolutely appropriate to condemn the Congress, it is also important to note that we have an administration in this city, in Washington, D.C., and the function of an administration is to administer. And that means that when there is waste and fraud, you have an administration who should also be on top of that situation.
No shit, Sherlock.
Even Chuck Schumer supported it back then.
If we're going to eliminate the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, it does mean we're going to cut some of that out.
What did Chuck just say?
In Medicare, it does mean we're going to cut some of that out. And when I hear my friend Dave Camp say, you cannot cut money out of Medicare, well, we don't want to cut the good stuff that you point out. 1/3 of Medicare doesn't go to patient care. You can't just get up there and say, we don't want to cut anything out of Medicare. We want to cut the bad stuff and keep the good stuff.
That would be really good.
It is laughable. They act like this is something that was just newly created. And oh God, please, Trump's to Hitler and everything else. It's bullshit, you guys. The only difference between Trump and the Democrats from the old is that Trump's actually doing something about it. All you got to do is apply a little common sense.
Let me get this straight. The very same people who've been trying to force us into buying electric vehicles because they claim that they are better for the environment are the very same people who are now burning down those very same electric vehicles in protest of the guy who makes those electric vehicles, because that guy is showing us how much of our taxpayer money is being wasted by the government.
Yes, this comes from the same people claiming to be fighting for women's rights while fighting to keep trans men in women's sports, knocking the hell out of them every chance they get. Well, let's see how that works out.
Man, shut your...
Alright, so this woman here is a woman called Lucia Rijker. She was a Dutch professional boxer, kickboxer, and widely considered to be one of the greatest female fighters of all time. And she used to be dubbed by the press as the most dangerous woman in the world. And she's a 4-time kickboxing world champion with a record of 37 wins with 25 knockouts. And in boxing, her record is 17-0 with 14 knockouts. So she thought it would be a good idea to fight a man. Now, this guy was nothing spectacular. He was just an average fighter. He was 13-1, and he was an amateur as well. He wasn't even a professional.
So yeah, the same team that claims to be fighting for women's rights, but want to keep males in women's sports, the same people who claim not to know what a woman is, not can understand why they're all screwed up on that side.
We were just given the biggest financial news in my lifetime, and it seems like the mainstream media just doesn't give a fuck. $661 billion per year. 10% of our entire fucking budget. That's how much money they found was being spent every year on improper and fraudulent payments in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Oh, and before all you liberals freak out and say, oh, this is just more misinformation from Elon Musk, it wasn't Doge that found this. No, it was the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, an organization that was founded in 1921. For those of you bad at math, that is 104 fucking years ago. They're the ones who published this report. And they recently finished their evaluation of payments given through Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. They'd been doing this investigation for about 2 years now. And they found $661 billion in fraud. Like I said, you got to understand, our annual budget is $6 trillion. Well, I mean, it's around $6 trillion. But that means that 10% of everything our government spends every year is fraud. 10% of our entire federal budget is either improper or fraudulent payments in just 3 programs. And the GAO says this has probably been going on for decades. You understand how bad that is, right? Like, if we could have eliminated that in the last 10 years, that could have eliminated almost 20% of all federal debt. 1/5 of all of our federal debt could have been gone through that. And like I said, it's not wild that we found this vast amount of fraud. Like, we figured that was happening. But the problem is, why is this not the biggest news across every website? 10% of our annual budget is fraud. This is a big fucking deal, and the media needs to treat it like that.
But I really think a lot of people in America are waking up because Orange Man's not bad.
Are y'all seeing it yet? This is what I voted for right here. I don't know about y'all, but anyone that makes 150 grand or less, Trump says, I guess the whole administration's pushing for no taxes. No taxes.
Well, now for the Democrats, they're so against what Trump's doing that they will actually pay taxes. We're going to all see this. We're going to see these representatives dig into their bank account and actually give money to the IRS because they're so against what's going on. Look, we already know the Democrats are two-faced, and they're desperate right now. They are not going to win the midterms. And to make matters worse, they're starting to push AOC Biscuit out front as the future leader. You can already see this trying to pan out. Like I said, if the older Democrats were smart, they would separate themselves from those crazies on the left, get more center, jump aboard what Trump's doing so they can be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
It's okay for a Democrat to do it, but not Trump. Let's get into it. Barack Obama signed an executive order in 2011 for an oversight and accountability board to detect and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse across government with the best public servants. But when Trump does it, to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse with public servants, it's bad. When Biden says he wants people working from home back in the office, and his chief of staff says it's a priority of the president, because 3 out of 4 of the federal agency buildings was at a 25% or less occupancy rate, it's okay. But when Trump says it, he's a dictator. When Obama slashed NIH funding by how much? A 5% reduction, which in turn caused NIH funding falling short $714 million of pre-bill funding levels, which caused them to only make up about half of their losses because in real dollars, NCI's budget falls short of its previous budget, $4.968 billion. But when Trump wants to slash $4 billion from NIH funding, he hates kids with cancer. When Obama deports more non-criminals than criminals by the hundreds of thousands, it's okay. But when Trump does it, he's a racist. When eggs spike up over 50 to 60% under Biden, it's okay. But under Trump, he doesn't know how the economy works. When Al Gore, vice president under Bill Clinton, writes an entire letter about how he wants small government, and it's the smallest it's been in more than 30 years because of them, because it is him and President Clinton's top priority. it's okay. But when Trump does it, he's a fascist. When Elizabeth Warren 15 years ago was asked about money laundering in the government, this is what she said.
You know, when that much money disappears, it's usually because somebody broke some laws somewhere. But if we don't look, if we don't ask, if we don't uncover it and make it all public, we'll never find it.
But now, in 2025, Elon Musk must be stopped. Are we starting to see a pattern yet?
I mean, I think it's so funny. They're talking about, we're going to lose our benefits. We're going to lose our SNAP benefits. Oh my God. Trump's going to cut Social Security. Trump's the bad guy. The problem is you guys got to do your own research and stop listening to the lying media.
What I would tell the American people is do not listen to the fear-mongering from the radical left and the Democrats. Donald Trump has been clear. We're not touching Social Security. We're not touching Medicare. If anything happens in Medicare in particular, it's to get illegals off of Medicare and to get some of the waste out of Medicare so that that program is more secure for seniors who rely on it. Budget reconciliation doesn't really allow you to touch Social Security anyway. That's just the way the rules are written. So we'll have to do that through regular order. And everything else is about getting the waste out and getting rid of these terrible programs that are not in the national interest so that we can actually focus on the core mission of the federal government. This is why early on, the waste and the cuts we were finding was very popular by the American people. But now you have the Democrats who are fear-mongering. They're storming town halls. Now I hear they're beating up Teslas for crying out loud. I mean, their attitude is a joke. It's ridiculous because they're not serious. The serious people up here are House and Senate Republicans led by Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah. Back to those cuts. How real are they? Well, for some of you to have SSA, you might have found a neat little present in your bank account. If not, it's going to happen between now and the end of the month. What am I talking about? Social Security pays billions of dollars in retroactive payments. Social Security Administration today shared its significant progress to quickly implement the Social Security Fairness Act. Through March 4th of 2025, SSA has already paid 1.1 million people more than $7.5 billion in retroactive payments. The retroactive payments are the result of the repeal of the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset. The average retroactive payment so far is $6,710. President Trump made it very clear he wanted the SSA Act to be implemented as quickly as possible.
If you receive a surprise payment of about $6,000 showing up from the Social Security Administration in your bank account, it's legit. It is real. And we're hearing that this is exactly what is happening right now for millions of Americans all over the nation. Now, in addition to that, as you guys know, we're hearing that there is a Doge dividend stimulus refund check of about $5,000 that's going to be going out to millions of Americans as well. It is currently being drafted and pushed to be included in the reconciliation bill. And we're hearing, I got that exclusive with you, that this would go out to Social Security recipients as well.
So not only people with Social Security getting an additional $6,000, but they're also going to benefit from a Doge payment. So much for cutting Social Security. Seems to me that Trump just handed them an additional $6,000 on top of what they already get. And now they're talking about giving them a Doge payment as well of around $5,000. I know about you, but I can use an extra $5,000. And for people on Social Security, not only do they get the Doge payment of $5,000, but they're already getting a $6,000 payment as well. So what were all those crying and screaming and hyperventilating, hyperbolic Democrats crying about? Trump's cutting Social Security? Cutting SNAP benefits? Oh yeah, speaking of SNAP benefits, in the budget bill, Trump has asked for an additional $500 billion to be added to the SNAP program. He's asking for additional money. He's not cutting it. What they're not telling you is Trump's going through and they're cutting out those individuals who are not American citizens. Like Byron Donald said, stop listening to the lying lefties and their lying media buddies. It's all bullshit. The checks are going out, and I'm sure a lot of us can use those extra benefits. Anyways, I'm curious to hear what you have to say. I'm out.